Hi guys, and welcome back to this episode of
The Results Show.
The Results Show indeed. And in this one we are going to be talking about money and wealth.
Another contentious issue.
Oh yes. What was it we were saying at the end of the last episode? It's one of the things that apparently you're not meant to...
Talk about when you're with friends having dinner.
And I think that's actually quite a neat way of actually getting into this episode, because I think, we're not just talking about, NLP as, ways to persuade people to give you all their pennies. A lot of it starts with actually your own internal representation and relationship with money, which is what a lot of people kind of like hit up against. They see other people out there, either making a fortune or doing well for themselves, and they try to go down that route, but it's almost like there's a handbrake on somewhere inside them.
Yeah, and, also, I've got a friend of mine, and there's one thing that's absolutely guaranteed to get him angry, which is somebody doing well, somebody making a lot of money, somebody with an expensive car or expensive watch or whatever it may be. And, you'll literally see red. And then you go, how successful do you think he is? How much money do you think he has? Well, not very much. Because if he did, he'd have to get angry at himself, wouldn't he?
Yes.
What's that there saying, you're your own worst enemy.
Yes.
So there's emotions around money. For him, anger. For other people, fear. If you've got a lot of money, there are consequences that come with that. So, I know other people that don't allow themselves to make a lot of money because they don't want to lose it.
Yes.
Well, you haven't got anything to lose, right? Or then there's people who feel guilty about the money they've got. I think I mentioned in one of the other previous...
Yeah, I was going to say, because it's like when you made so much in a day.
As my dad used to make in a year.
Yes.
And, I should have been going out and celebrating that, going like, yay, but I wasn't. I asked myself, is that okay? And the answer that came up was, no, it's not okay. So then if I hadn't have used timeline therapy techniques to let go of that guilt, I'd have never had a day where I was that financially successful, because I wouldn't allow myself. I'd sabotage it to avoid the bad feeling I was going to get.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Because with a lot of this stuff and all the stuff that we're talking about, your subconscious has a very insidious way of working. It's very good at covering its tracks. And it's almost like, again, we mentioned about the whole Yes Prime Minister. It's like, if you're trying to do something your subconscious does not believe is actually a good thing to do, then there are so many opportunities you'll be blind to, and so many other things whereby you'll just come up against. It's like a CEO sitting in his office sending out stuff, but nothing actually gets done. The reason being is because the workforce are actually going, that guy's crazy, we shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah. And, we have so much, well, for many people, so much unconscious programming about money. Particularly, we talked about the Morris Massey and the different developmental periods.
Yes.
In previous episodes. And the imprint period, 0 to 7, your unconscious mind is like a sponge. And, a lot of people are in an environment where there was so much disempowering stuff about money.
Yes.
Like, money is the root of all evil.
Rich people are mean.
Rich people are mean. Or, here in the UK, I think it's different in other countries, but here in the UK, if you see somebody who's got a lot of money, immediately people go, either they were born rich, and if you weren't born rich, may I suggest it's too late, or, must be a drug dealer.
Yes.
So if you weren't born rich and your values don't allow you to be a drug dealer, then basically you've just closed off the two potential, the only two potential routes the person believes to make a lot of money. And, you know, I think the quote from the Bible is actually the love of money is the root of all evil.
Yes.
Rather than money is the root of all evil. You know what? So the other one you've got, it's easier for a camel to fit through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. The eye of the needle is actually a doorway, a gate, I think, in Israel.
Yes.
And it is possible to get a camel through the eye of the needle as long as you have it lower its head. But you get all these misquotes.
Yes.
You know, and you know, and also I remember, like, when I was a kid, when I started my first job when I was 15, working in the co-op in Nottingham, Saturday job, because I wanted to have money to buy Elvis records.
Bizarrely enough, my first job was at 15, working as a Saturday job in the co-op in Portsea Island.
There we go. And then, you know, I went to the university, did my degree. But again, I wanted to make money in the summer holidays between year 2 and year 3. So I got a summer job working for Plessey here in Nottingham, Beeston.
Yes.
In Nottingham, electronics company. And you know, in those days, I think it's different these days, but on a Friday, the entire department went to the pub for a couple of beers. And one of the guys said, you know, I'll give you a lift. This would have been 1983. And this guy had a Ford XR3i.
Oh, the XR3i.
And so, you know, I'm in this car and he wants to show off a little bit. So
Yeah.
You know, he's putting his foot down. And I loved it. And, you know, I went home and said to my dad, oh, you know, I had a ride in this fantastic sports car. And my dad said, well, you know, you've got to make choices in your life because you can't have everything. So he said, personally, I've made the choice of having hi-fi rather than fast cars.
Yes.
And it wasn't until probably 10 years later, when I got into NLP and personal development, that I realized it doesn't have to be an or.
Yeah.
It can be an and. You can have hi-fi and the sports cars.
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, what often these days is they put a massive hi-fi into the sports car. It's powered purely by its subwoofer.
Yeah. So, you know, that's the other thing. And, you know, I think it was Bob Proctor who said that money is neither good or bad. It has no inbuilt intelligence. What money is an amplifier.
Yes.
So money will make a good person gooder. No, that doesn't actually appear in the English language. But,
It's all right, we're allowed to invent
and
words.
it will make a bad person badder. Yeah. But it's that the money isn't making the good person gooder, and the money isn't making the bad person badder. It's just an amplifier of the person's natural kind of like mindset.
Yeah, because I think the thing about it to remember is that obviously money is essentially, you know, it's power or capability tokens, if you like. You know, so if it allows you to do things or have things, and what you then decide to have or what you then decide to do, whether it be for other people or for yourself, is something that is going to come out of your own values, your own beliefs.
Yeah.
Rather than, you know, kind of like the pound note sitting there saying, spend me on an XR3i.
Yeah, obviously we've got a physical symbology, although less so these days, with our coins, our banknotes, etc. But they're just a symbol of an energy exchange. because before we had this symbol that we call money, people did that energy exchange through bartering.
Yes. I like your daughter, I have a nice sheep.
Yeah.
Should we? Yeah.
I need a new wagon, I'll give you 5 chickens. I'm happy with that.
Better be very good chickens, that's a nice wagon.
But then, somebody created, as you say, these tokens for the energy exchange. I mean, I still find it quite amusing. If you look at our banknotes, when I was a kid, there was written on the banknote was a note from the Bank of England saying that they would exchange a £10 note.
Oh, I promised to pay the bearer on demand.
£10 of gold. But then there was a particular Chancellor of the Exchequer. I can't remember his name now. It was a colour. I think it was brown.
Right.
Decided to sell all of our gold to the Chinese for a discounted price.
Was this because I seem to remember it was the gold standard, wasn't there? Where back in, and I think a lot of that actually changed after World War II as well, because we had to lose the gold standard. We also, the dollar became the national, the lingua franca currency because
you got the fiat currencies.
Yes.
Into being. So now on our banknotes it says I promise to pay the bearer the equivalent of £10. So if you go to the Bank of England with a £10 note and you give it to them, and what you do is they give you another £10 note because they haven't got any gold anymore. So
you probably get £9, minus the commission fee.
So money today, physical money today, is even more symbolic and metaphorical,
yes,
than it was previously. And so, therefore, it's all about mind.
Yeah.
And, and how much somebody believes their worth. 'Cause quite often I say to people, you'll never have somebody pay you £1 million until you believe you're worth £1 million.
Yes.
So the amount of money that you've got is directly equated to how much a person believes that they're worth.
Yes.
And so then, you've got the whole thing about a lot of people have a belief set where money is related to time and effort. So with that kind of mindset, they go, if I want more money, I've got to work longer and harder.
Yes, which instantly caps it and also then has detrimental effects on the rest of their life.
Yeah. Where in actual fact, there isn't any correlation between time and effort.
No.
And money. It's all to do with mind.
Yeah, because I think there was somebody who said that, you can become relatively successful by selling, by getting paid for time, but you can become really successful by getting paid for ideas. Or for, basically making sure that something, it's like the whole, John Paul Getty thing, wasn't it? We said, I would far rather, rather than earning $100 an hour, I'd far rather earn $1 an hour off 100 people's work.
Right.
So, because obviously, and this also comes down to the whole scalability. How much can you then actually upscale that?
Yeah.
If you look at people like, J.K. Rowling, there was no way that they could have the money that they do if it was tied into some sort of per hour job, because that job would then have to pay, an unheard of amount per hour.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was talking about my dad's kind of beliefs, but equally, there was another thing they used to say, which was, "You'll never get rich digging somebody else's ditch." And that used to rattle around in my head. I think that's what essentially had me decide I was going to leave Reuters and set up my own business. I had other limiting beliefs as well, which meant that my first 3 businesses that I ran were very costly. It cost me a lot. And it wasn't until I learned NLP and discovered those limiting mindsets and also tools and techniques to change them that then I started becoming successful in business.
Okay. So I think if we can basically sum up, because I think we'll probably need to wrap up the episode shortly, but because I think what we're basically exploring here is, and obviously in terms of there are lots of ways that we can use kind of NLP techniques in business for, you could call it persuasion, you could call it communication, you could call it marketing, and lots of other ways as well, in terms of, building yourself as a leader, uniting and motivating a team. But for this one, I think what we're basically focusing on is just making sure that we've actually prepared the ground so that when you do go out there and start to put your plans in motion and start to create your business or generate your fortune, there is not a sabotage crew in your own head that's going to try to unravel what you're knitting as fast as you can do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lovely. Okay, folks, so that brings us to the end of this particular episode. So what we're going to do is, on the next episode, we're basically going to have a bit of a recap and summarize. We're also going to be looking at some of the stories that have come, some of the success stories or case studies, if you like, from actually putting all of the things that we have talked about over the previous episodes into practice with real people in real world situations. And then after that, we'll be diving on to look at how we can basically partner NLP with some very, very interesting and highly complementary technologies and techniques.
Yep.
So until then, if you've got any questions, then please email us at
podcast@theresultshow.com.
theresultshow.com. And we will see you on the next episode.
See you.
Bye.